morning, welcome to another video. What a glorious morning. Hardly any wind. It's very cold though. It's one of those awkward days when now I'm just before 8 o'clock, and yeah, it's very cold. There's plenty of frost, bit of ice on the canal, but I think in another hour, where the sun's coming up, it's going to be warm. Might be overdressed. But yeah, lovely morning to be out. Really nice, crisp winter's morning. But spring is on the way, birds are singing. So today, well, this week actually, marks exactly a year since I got this bike. The Trek Checkpoint ALR5. So I thought it only fair I give you a kind of review of this bike after a year of riding it. What do I like? What's good about it? Is it the bike I expected? What don't I like about it? So a year ago, before I got this bike, I was considering a few others. The main rival, I guess, at the time was the Ribble CGR, and I quite like that. I like the look of it. It was quite easy to get at the time, and I also considered a Sonder bike. Saw one when I was on holiday in my Lake District. I just loved it. Looked really cool bike. But I was swayed by the Trek after having seen one when a customer came in the coffee shop on one. Well, several people did actually, and I looked a bit more closely, did a bit of research, and yeah, I haven't done it last year for obvious reasons with pandemics, etc., but I'd really like to do some bike packing at some point. And one of the main selling points of Trek Checkpoint is that you've got loads of mounting points for luggage, bags, racks, mudguards, whatever you want really. Compared to several other bikes in the same kind of category, the Checkpoint seems pretty flexible. It does make a really nice road bike. I've not done, but if you wanted to fit some skinnier tyres on it and some slimmer wheels, faster wheels, it would make a really nice road bike, comfortable road bike. It's not going to be ultra fast, as like a race bike would be, but as an endurance bike, sportive bike, yeah, I reckon it'd be great. It's very comfortable to ride for sure. So what do I like about it? Well, I think one of the great things, this is a 2020 model, and it's actually kitted out with Shimano 105, as you can see here. So as a road-based group set, that's a really good group set. As you probably know, it sits right in the sweet spot. So it's quite light, it's quite efficient. There's not a massive gain to be got by going up to Ultegra above it. There is a gain, but it's not massive. I mean, I've got Ultegra on my summer bike, hardly notice any difference. The brakes, hydraulic discs, which you can just see there. And again, the Shimano 105 is really well known, it's really proven. Great brake set. I've been really impressed with the brakes actually. I think it might just be getting towards time to get some new brake pads, but they have lasted like that's about 5,000 miles in a year, and I have been out in some gritty, rubbishy off-road bits, so they've certainly had a fair amount of muck thrown at them, and yeah, they're not worn out. So I mentioned some of the extra mounting points we've got on the top here. There's a couple of bolts on the top. You can fit a top tube bag on there if you want. I've got a battery pack under here for the Chilitech light. We've got mounts here on the forks, so you can fit a cage on the side with bottles, sleeping bags, storage, etc. So under the frame here, we've got a mount down there. We've got mudguard mounts here and here. We've got a couple of bottle cage mounts just there. There's actually two just there, and the bottom two that this bottle's mounted on just there, and I've got two there. So as you can see, you've got a really flexible positioning for bottles and stuff like that. Obviously at this time of year I still got my mudguards on, but actually I think mudguards pretty much suit the bike. They certainly don't interfere with much. And I fitted actually 53mm SKS Blumels mudguards, and they really keep everything well away from you, so you don't get very muddy or anything at all. So one of the things about the checkpoint, you've actually got I forget what Trek call it, it might be shark point or something like that, but basically you can move the rear axle. You can just see in that slot there, you can move the axle best part of an inch backwards. So if you're going bikepacking or you're loaded up for touring, yeah, moving the rear wheel back gives you quite a change in the way it handles. So if you're loaded up, etc., it'll make it a bit smoother, a bit less twitchy, and ideal for touring really. So I tend to have it in the front setting here, just for the general riding that I do. I found that the handlebars are really well wrapped here as well. They're quite chunky, so there's plenty to hold on to, especially off-road. You can see here there's some extra padding, I think, underneath the bar tape, and that makes the bars quite thick physically to hold. From the front you can see that the bars are quite road focused really. I think one of the things I would quite like is a little bit more flare on those handlebars ideally. You know, some gravel bikes are quite flared, a little bit more would be nice. So something I don't like, let me just show you. So Trek are a really big manufacturer, spend a fortune on R&D. Generally the bikes are great, they're really cool, they're really well featured, they're stylish. So Mr. Trek designer, what's going on here? This brake hose goes down here and is held on from the factory by a cable tie. Goes down to the brake, another cable tie just there. What's all that about, eh? Can we bother to finish off with forks? So we've got internal cable routing here, which is nice and neat down through the frame, no cables flapping around. It's relatively neat around here. The cables nicely tucked away. But when it comes to the front, we couldn't really be bothered to run them down the forks, could we? Hey? Could have been internal, couldn't have been that hard. But no, we'll run it down the outside. It'll flap about a bit, but all right. Put a cable tie around that, mate. Yeah. So I have changed a couple of things. I've changed the saddle. You can see here, and I've actually got exactly the same saddle as Cosine saddle, which is on my summer bike. But the other thing I've changed is the seat post, and that's got a carbon seat post now. It's only a cheaper Chinese one. I don't really mind too much about that, but it's lasting pretty well. But I think if you're buying this style of bike, I would definitely recommend getting a carbon seat post. It's got a little bit more flex in it. You can see, you might just be able to see here. And I think off-road, that gives you, it's not quite a suspension, but it just got a little bit more compliance, and it moves around a little bit. So it definitely removes a little bit of the harshness if you are off-road on sort of the rough stuff. So let's get back on the bike now, and I'll tell you a little bit more about my thoughts on the checkpoint. So the track that I was just riding down is absolutely perfect territory for a checkpoint or a gravel bike generally. Those smooth old railways, you can lick along there at a reasonable pace and then pop out onto the road as we are now. So particularly in this area, for me, there's a lot of tracks like that, canal towpath, etc. So it's great to be able to have that flexibility, just pop off the road at any time onto a track and vice versa. navigate. So I was talking about gearing, and this is the 2020 model of a Trek, and it has a Shimano 105 gear set on it. 2021 model has a GRX 1x11 speed on it. So Shimano 105 is broadly a gearing for the road really, and I say the beauty of it, when you want to, you've got really good road gearing. So I'm going along now 19 miles an hour. I'm on 40mm tyres. It's a little bit of an effort, but it's all right. Put some skinny tyres on, be much easier. So for riding on the road, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So I think with the 2021 model, having the GRX on that, I think that does make it more capable off-road. Got a little bit lower gearing, saving a little bit of weight, but there is a compromise on that model and the 2022 in that it's a little bit slower on the road. The gearing, it can just run out of gears quite easily. A good friend of mine has got the 2021 version, and he's got the GRX, and he's quite a strong rider, but we rode out together a while ago, had a little bit of a quicker run into town downhill, and yeah, he'd run out of gears, so I could just leave him without really trying. It was maxed out on the gears. So I think if you got a choice, or you're going to maybe change your gearing at some point, I guess your consideration is where you ride the most. If you're riding predominantly off-road, then yeah, I think the GRX is a really good match. But on-road, I really like the Shimano 105 gear set. You could easily switch them up. There's no great difficulty. You could, if you wanted to, fit either, and I'm sure your dealer would swap them over for you. I know, road's closed. I'm sure it'll be alright. It's the worst that can happen. Road's still closed. We can get through here though, can't we? We can get through here. Yeah, I told you it'd be alright. So one of the other things that I think leaves a little bit to be desired, ironically I'm saying this at exactly the same point on the road where I had the same discussion with Dan a few weeks ago. But I think the wheels do let the checkpoint down, standard stock wheels. They're okay, they're a decent set of wheels, but they're not great. Both myself and Dan, we both had bearing failures really early on, like 1,500–2,000 miles. My rear wheel is on his second set of bearings. I think each one lasted about 2,000 miles. I think if there is a weak point, that's probably it. But not been bad enough that I feel the definite need to change them. But if there was an upgrade I would do, that would be it. So overall, a year in, would I buy a checkpoint again? Most definitely yes, definitely. Is it the bike I expected? Again, definitely yes. In fairness, it's probably more than I expected. I expected with 40mm tyres to be really slow and hard work on the road, and it isn't. It's alright, it's good. Do I think it's the best gravel bike? I do feel that from a cost perspective versus the quality wheels accepted, it's got to be right up there. And certainly it wouldn't be sold out everywhere like it is if it wasn't any good. I've yet to see anybody give a bad review of it, that's for sure. So that's a year and about 5,000 miles. So it's a good a test as any, I think. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, hit the like button. I'll see you in a few days' time. See you again. Bye.